goodness. It should not be that hard.
Welcome to another taste of honey in your coffee. We have some technical difficulties, y'all.
Tamika, we're here.
Alrighty. So, of course, I'm Yashi.
I'm Dee. She's making me be more accountable of introducing ourselves. So,
exactly.
Dee and I was gonna say Dee and Honey, not Dee and Honey, Dee and Yashi.
But we are here and we are back, you guys. And I hope you missed us because we missed you.
We really did. I know I did. I really did.
Yes, she's been going through withdrawals.
Ooh.
Real honey withdrawals.
I've been talking to people just around town.
Right.
So today we come to you talking about dating and single parenthood. How do you blend, dating, getting to that point in your relationship where you want to make it serious, blending all of that with your children, their personalities, their wants, their needs, and making it actually work. So one of the first things that we wanted to touch on is oftentimes when people first start dating, you see her eyes, right?
Right.
When they first get into this new relationship, there's oftentimes this competition between your potential partner or your partner and your children. And it would be ideal to say that competition comes from the children when they feel like, oh, all of a sudden I have to share my parents. No, oftentimes it actually comes from that potential mate who's like, oh, but what about me? And it almost puts me in a mind frame. When I got married, I already had children. My ex-husband had children. And I understand why people say when you first get married, wait before you have children to spend that time so they can feel that, that honeymoon phase. They can, fulfill all those needs. And before you start introducing children too soon, because it becomes an issue of, well, hold on, I didn't get enough time.
And that's even without a blending family. That's a family that you are creating. So the thing about it is that even when, to go back a little bit, rewind a little bit, with adults that are feeling in competition with children, I don't want to say sad, but sometimes the mutual person in the middle don't see it.
Right.
So then the competition becomes
directly between the child
and then it's like, of course you don't want to always feel like you have to take sides, but at the end they're doing it sneakily, and then it's creating more issue than it has to be,
right?
Especially when it is coming from that adult counterpart. Right. It's like, seriously though, man, like, right, I've had people to say to me like, but it hurt my feelings or this, and I get it, we all have kids,
right?
I mean, we all have had our own insecurities and everything, but to me, it's a child, like,
that was not asked to be here, that didn't ask for any of this, and there is a level of responsibility and obligation that you owe to your child. Especially, I think a lot of it has to do with their age. Not to say that an 18-year-old child or a 17, 16-year-old child does not deserve time, but they sometimes can be a little more understanding because at that point they're starting their lives.
Or they can be a little bit more cocky or intrusive.
This is true.
I don't give them a pass either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But like when it's entertained is my issue.
Right.
It's like, what part of you feel the need to have to stoop down 3 levels to get eye to eye with this child and try to win this power war?
Right.
Why hasn't your authority already been stated coming in the door? Because me personally, I don't care whether I know this child or not. As an adult, the way I make other adults respect me, I'm going to step in with a certain air about myself that's going to speak respect anyway. So when that child approached me directly about something, then I'm going to come from not even a parent type of space, but just as an adult, the adult of who I am. Do you break down and cry or moan and all this stuff when your peers, other adult peers approach you? So now you're going to break down and cry and make it a tit for tat with a kid?
Which has something to do, to me, when it comes to an adult trying to bribe. Oftentimes, a lot of that has to do with, if I can get to the child, then I can get to the mom or I can get to the dad. And So hey, what you like, little man? Little woman, you want some Chick-fil-A? You want some, hey, what you want? Which sets up this falsehood, because now the child is going to expect that.
Yep.
And now you're creating even more drama and tension between
gaining sincere authority.
Right.
Right.
And I think some of this can also, it could also possibly have, I'm not studying Tamika. He would have you to get a child some candy laced with, what you say, Tamika? And put them children to bed, whatever. But oftentimes, could it be an issue that we are setting expectations too early for the children? You know what I'm saying? So it's
when you do that, you are, because you're not making them earn your respect.
Right.
You're coming in as the adult trying to buy their respect. Right. That's a difference. You don't. That's just like when you're dating, you come in and give gifts, and you're not making that person earn your respect, earn your trust, earn anything. You're just giving everything.
And I think a lot of that also has to do with how many. And let's be honest, there are a lot of people that don't respect children.
Oh gosh,
they don't They don't respect them. They don't feel like they should have a say in anything. And not to say that children should run your household. And that's not what I mean. But if you are in the midst of changing their lives with bringing in someone into that, I mean, should it be a sit down, have a discussion, and not even a discussion of what do you think I should do? This is, like you said, setting those parameters. This is what's getting ready to happen, and we're going to discuss what it's going to look like.
Right.
Right.
And I got to rewind a little bit back to that. When you were saying, dang, why do I always get these blankouts in the middle of the moment? When the person is buying child too soon, that not only makes you look weak as an adult,
it does.
They're never going to respect you. But then there was another part of that. I'm going to try to come back. I got to start writing, y'all. So keep talking. When I have a thought,
right.
But
and so you have to understand. I think one of the greatest harms that I did is rushing too soon. And it was like, okay, well, you guys are children, you'll be all right, because I'm just going to introduce you into this situation, and not giving any respect to how they felt about the process coming along. Like I said, it's a difference from understanding that something is happening as opposed to, oh, well, I feel like I can run a household. I'm 10, you're not going to be here. I mean, everybody has seen that movie Problem Child. I forgot the little actor's name, but he ran every suitor that came to his mom. Or was it? No, it was a dad. He had a father. Every woman that the dad liked, the way he did something, and you have children out there.
Oh, no, that wasn't a problem. That wasn't Macaulay Culkin, but sorry, go ahead. I had to think about what you were talking about. Problem Child. No, I'm thinking about Home Alone. Oh, but go ahead.
But when you have situations, and that brings up another point: are we honest with ourselves in the situations that we're asking people to be a part of? Oh, how ruly are your children? Right. That's something else we have to ask, as we're looking for oftentimes people to jump right in. Oh, I can't control them. Can you? I don't have any bearings. There's no respect. None of that has been gained, but you want me to come in and control a situation that you can't.
Well, my issue is if you have no control of your children, and if you're not willing to be honest about the level of disruption or medical issues, mental issues, behavior issues that your child has, then please do not try to pass it off onto someone else as if they are the issue. Because when a person is coming in wholeheartedly, that's the easiest way to screw that person up mentally. Like, you're really trying to put forth your effort, but you're not even you're in denial. Right. So how, like you're saying, you just want to throw me into something. Right. You have to be but then the thing of it is, a lot of people aren't honest with themselves. So they really don't. They're not going to be honest about what their child is going through. Right. Like a lot of the time, and that's sad to say.
And that's if they even know.
Yeah, I was going to say that now.
Long enough to be, clear enough of what's going on. Anyone knows me knows I love plays, and there's this play by David, whatever his name is. I can't think of it right now. But there's this single mother, and she calls her son Man Man, and she gives him Skittles laced with alcohol.
Oh, really?
In her mind, that's the only way I can keep this child calm. And I'm bringing this up for a point. And so the guy that's interested in her, instead of him stepping up and saying, no, I don't think you should be giving this baby alcohol, mixed with kids. He's like, okay, well, that's how I see it. Hey, I'm bringing him a whole bag full to come through. And for me, that brings up another point, how honest, not just as the parent with the child, but as you're going into this situation, do you have enough backbone to be to bring to the table? This is part of what I'm bringing to the table. I'm thinking maybe we can do a little more structural. Maybe we can change it, because you don't want to be offensive and come in and say, oh, your parenting is wrong, but to bring in a different perspective to that situation. To me, that adds value.
And being open enough to receive it. However, you also have to, like you said, be honest, because the things that are already said there, also on the flip side of that, don't think those things are just going to change overnight.
Exactly.
That takes work.
That was a pattern, right?
Exactly. You know what I mean? And in the midst of that progress, being in competition, going back to the original, statement, with a child, and you're trying to influence them or mold them or create this family bond or whatever the goal may be, definitely that's only going to create unhealthy competition.
Right.
The next thing you know, then now the child is going to start lashing out at you and all these other things. But if you don't see yourself, if you don't see your role in the situation, if you're not willing to speak and create structure, children love discipline.
They really do.
They love structure. And if you can't provide that, then why are you there?
You know what, Tamika, hush. We're not messing kids up, whatever.
Well, I guess mine would be messed up if discipline is going to mess them up, because my children, they know their places as children, period. They don't.
Sis brought up a good point to me. Thanks, Travis. Absolutely. Respecting the kids is a huge thing. Now, everyone knows here, I have the two older children, almost 30, and I'm telling that business. I'm sorry. I didn't tell your age. I'm sorry. But I have what I call the three little ones. And even with the situation with them, recently losing their father. So they're in a different space right now. And something we was talking about, I was like, because we was talking about, most kids have this tendency to attach to things quickly, or they can't. Yeah. And sis brought up the point, oftentimes it depends on their emotional state. And so at first I was thinking, well, they just lost their father, so whoever I bring in my life, they're going to automatically connect to. And she said, no, actually they won't, because your children, they have a healthy perspective of choice. And I had to think about it. They really do. My little ones, they'll play, they'll talk with you, but they're sitting there watching. And so they're making those choices based on how you treat. Exactly. Right. And it has to do with their relationship with you.
And you know what? A lot of adults, this is where the competition gets created too, because a lot of adults, like you said, they don't respect children. So they definitely don't like what they call being nosy.
Right.
As if a child does not have the openness to observe you as the new person in our home or in our house, or even if we're moving to your house, whatever it is, I still have to get to know you as a human being.
As a human being, exactly.
First, and people don't respect. It's like they try to keep everything shut away from the child. They don't want the child to see how they interact with their other parent or whatever this and that. But guess what? Those children will know just by the way that parent is changing.
Right.
If that parent doesn't have this glow that they used to have, they're not gonna like you anyway.
Right.
It's time for you to go.
And then, like I said, age has a lot to do with it. But even it does, but it doesn't, because a child can pick up on a vibe. And I didn't know the last, like I said, so-called relationship I was in. I didn't realize that every time I was feeling stressed out in that situation, although I'm coming home, smiling, doing what I need to do, my younger ones didn't quite know what to call it. But it wasn't until my older girls pulled my coattails and no, we can tell every time you've had an issue because it's how you move in the house now. And I was like, oh, I never even thought about that.
And then when the actual person is actually introduced, then the kids already have their barriers up, and this person can't figure out why. Well, look how mommies came home every night after kicking with you, whether good or bad.
Right.
But the child is already making their predetermined judgment based off of the observation of how you came in the door.
Right.
And people don't understand that either.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, I'm dating someone new currently, and right,
I ain't jealous.
But just like my children haven't met. Well, they haven't met yet, and yeah. So, but my daughter, she's like, I see a change in you, so I'm cool with it, Mom. Like, do it, all this and that, and I'm the type of person, typically, I don't really we were talking about that too. How long before you start
That's a great question.
A person meet your children?
That's a great, and I know we got some men out there listening.
Yeah.
That is a great question, because I think for the most men, although I can say, if you don't mind me putting your business out there, Mr. Travis, I know he is one that seems to be, more protective of his family, because that's, is an important piece to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most women are like that.
Mm-hmm.
For many different reasons. For me, it's, the whole, the disappointment for my children, them getting too attached too quickly. And I'm not even sure that you're going to be here that long,
right.
Or the whole letting down, because I hate to tell my children something is going to happen and it doesn't. That bothers me, because it makes me feel like a liar.
Right.
And I don't like stuff like that. But I know, you have Mr. Steve Harvey, whose perception is, as soon as you meet them, go ahead and introduce them to your children.
Right.
See how they're going to interact. It's like you can tell a lot from that. And it's like,
so is that a man thing, you all? Because women, like you were saying, we operate totally different, differently. So is that a man thing? Just like, go ahead, take the Band-Aid off, meet now. Like, just answer in the comments for me, somebody. Yes, no, like, I don't know. But yeah, because for a woman, like I was saying, for me, typically, I don't let anyone meet my children until like 6 months to a year after we've been dating. But sis brought up another good point. She said sometimes people do not allow their children to meet their mate until they're dang near about to get married.
Right. And
that's a new one for me.
And that creates another issue, because it's unfair to the children. You've given yourself all of this time to get acquainted with this person, to create a rhythm with them, to the point that, hey, I feel like this is serious and we're going to take it there. Now let me introduce you to my children and blah, blah, blah. Okay, next week we get married. And the kids like, hold on, this person new. And you're like, no, they're not. They've been here forever. Well, dang it, why you didn't tell me?
Right. And they're like, yeah.
So it has to be some type of beautiful balance, and in the state of the world. I understand. My mentality is, they tell you, there's one male to every 5, 6, 7, 8 women.
Yeah,
I don't feed into that philosophy. Right. I don't feed into that philosophy, because my thought process, I only need one anyway. So my ratio is always good.
Well, yeah, I'm
So, and when it comes to that, and then I think that sounds good on the surface, 1 to 5, 6, 7, 8. But if you add in the word quality, I think it's down to 1 to 1.
Right.
I think it's really down, because everything out there is not of quality. But so when you're introducing, how soon do you take to actually introduce your children, even in the process of you still somewhat trying to figure it out?
Okay, so my daughter, see, like all the dating things that I'm going through right now.
All right, Mr. Dre, he said it takes time to meet his children.
Okay, so exactly how much time though would you say? Would you say 3 months? Would you say 6 months? A year? How long? I want kind of a time range to measure. Like, yeah.
Ask Mr. Dre, can I call you?
Yeah. I was thinking that too. We go ahead and introduce. We are having a guest today. Woo!
And a male. Y'all know how I feel about those.
You know what? I have to say before we bring him on, I know we were going to do the men's panel with to the discussion about the dating sector. However, we could not get the men organized on time and right, and we're still working on that. We do have a few volunteers, but we weren't able to get everything balanced, but it's still coming.
Yes.
But today
we have Mr. Dre with Y Network. Go look that up. That's the letter Y Network. Go look up his business and support, fam.
Hi, Dre.
Hello. How y'all
doing? Great. So I see you answered. You said it takes time to meet your children. About how long would you before you allow someone to meet your kids?
Before I let someone meet the kids, I think that it has to be a little bit more than time, yes, but we're talking more of the connectivity,
right.
And if the energy / synergy of you being able to meet the kids, they can possibly be a month or two, but there lies the question of the representative.
Right. Exactly.
And that representative is always going to put on that best show.
Right. But I mean, that's a part of dating, though, isn't it? Because you really don't know who you're dealing with.
Which is why I said I'm sticking with my 6 months to a year. I don't care. Look, I have got.
I can understand. There's absolutely nothing wrong with 6 months to a year. Because 6 months is a good barometer, a good meter to be able to judge again. That representative ain't gonna be able to
stick around that long.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Because in my experience, to give it 3 weeks, deuces.
If you're in close quarters within those 3 weeks, then yeah, absolutely, you're gonna be in a situation where you're gonna be like, okay, well, it's been 6 weeks, so 3 weeks or whatever. So I've been able to find out enough about this individual to introduce them to the kids.
Right.
So that's a huge investment, because that's your life, that's your lifeline, that's letting you in. I can go and kick it with you, and we do whatever, and it not affect me the same, or that it could affect me and the kids.
Exactly.
Now. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because you might be getting ready to ask the same question.
No, go ahead.
I was getting ready to change over just before. So I knew it. Okay. So I have a question from a male's perspective, if you don't, or a man's perspective. When it comes to blended families, because that's one thing I think our community is not very good on speaking on and setting up and things like that. We just don't really talk about it. How I don't know if I want to ask, how does a blended family look to you, or how would you set one up?
I like both of those questions.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really good question. And I would say this. Just follow me for a second.
Okay.
I don't have a PhD, but just follow me.
That's all right. Look, I got pen and paper. Hopefully you can see me. I got you.
Right.
Women look for, and I think this marries into the blended family. Because first you have to cater to a woman's needs / guy's needs. Guys are physical, women are mental and physical. Women look for one broad subject with three sub. I guess you could look at it as the main.
I like that one broad.
And then three different subsections. Okay, so the main thing is women look for security. And they look for security in 3 different ways. They look for physical, mental, and spiritual security. That creates her connectivity to be able to blend. And once you get yourself there from a male's perspective, and you feel those 3 categories, then she's like, okay, he has a family, I have a family. I need to see what his family is like, and he needs to see what my family is like. But you don't there's I think that a lot of times in today's society and dating, we jump past 3 or 4 steps.
No one wants to. You talked about that. Nobody wants to wait until something is earned. It's just, oh, you know what? I'm gonna jump over this one, and hopefully it'll catch up, and it'll all mash out. And right.
Well, just get the Will and Jada thing. I mean, you gotta understand it from the jump.
Right.
You got to understand it from the jump, and that's the understanding. Okay, we like the chemistry of when we're intimate together.
Right.
And so we'll keep it here and keep the kids.
Wait, hold on. Wait, I wasn't expecting that last part. Keep the kids safe.
Yes, because when you blend the family, now everybody's subject to your stuff, yes, or whatever it
Right.
So if you're not gonna, if you're thinking of marriage, you're thinking of being together and blending the family, that has to take. Again, those are the steps that you have to take. Okay, getting to know relationship, building the relationship, building the trust, and then integrating the family.
Right.
So I don't like if a female invite me over her house and it's like a second or third date and she invite me over the house and the woman did that and it turned me off. Like literally turned me off because I mean I don't mind putting a little joy to sleep. I put some Benadryl in this bottle.
Where you go with this Benadryl today? Tamika, you have
you been talking to him?
But I don't like that from the standpoint of he shouldn't meet me until you're comfortable and understand that it's not just a one-time thing that I'm going to meet him.
Right.
I'm going to be around him. You're going to be around my kids. Blending the family means you understand every single intricate. You
as much as possible.
Your kids,
right.
And you understand how they move and how they work. Now I have to listen. Y'all need to do another show on this.
Yeah.
You know why?
I know you're right.
So many dynamics to it.
You're right.
That is true.
I have to understand each and every one. I have to know my kids and their because a lot of times what happens if you don't do it right, now bad things like rape happen. You're
right.
here,
yeah.
and your boyfriend's taking advantage of your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And these days it's the boys too that's getting taken advantage of.
Right.
By the female. So
right.
You have to know the person. You can't just arbitrarily say, I'm going to go into this because I'm just so much into him. And a lot of times, I think we kind of maybe touched on it real quickly before, like you're putting, you put the person before the child.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
right there.
Right.
You don't even know this person.
Right.
And this Negro all up in the crib and eating all this, drinking the Kool-Aid, you know what I'm saying, in his boxes and you know what I mean?
Right.
And that, you know what?
Yeah.
That my brother was just saying last night, he was like, if he met a woman that immediately was putting him before her children and he immediately just left.
Yeah.
That is a big red flag
right.
for men more than women are aware. And I'm not taking up for women, but it's vice versa as well.
Well, but the double standard with that is you would have more women that I think anyway that would feel some sense of honor. Oh, you're gonna put me before your children? Oh man, I must be so special.
Okay, now
and see,
that's
right, and see, I had an issue with this guy that I was seeing. Oh, he wanted to lavish all over my children. Oh, how are they doing today? Da 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 da. Before they even met him now. How are they doing today? Oh, I hear him in the background. Blah blah blah. Okay, oh, that's cool. Oh, so where's your son? Oh, well, we don't really talk. Why? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, see, I got that said. You don't have to ask me about my child. Hold on. I'm not one of them women that is impressed because you want to talk about my children. To me, that makes me think something is up, and I got to step away. I don't trust you.
Right, that covers three sides right there.
Right, I don't trust you. Yeah, with mine.
Right. Like
you have to ask the questions. I think on the onset of the first or second conversation.
Right.
Of finding out, it's not hard. Look,
it's not hard. It's not.
I'm a guy. We're not hard. You're gonna see that we're at buttholes. You know what I'm saying?
Right off the bat.
Or either you're gonna see that.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring you on the next show so you can explain to the women so the women will understand how do you know he's really into you. But that'll be part 3. Go ahead.
It's just so many layers because, like I said, like you have to know if you want to do something and you're feeling like the physical attraction between you and that guy, or the guy and you, or if it's organic and you really like this dude and he really likes you, then you say, see how he moves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not hard to figure out. You're gonna know real quick if we're in our kids' lives, and that's not to say you're gonna have the best relationship.
Right.
I think that's the thing.
Right.
You have to understand that there's problems in a relationship.
And that's true. That's true.
My friend, the Karen person told me before, you know, I had a situation.
That person, yeah.
And that's crazy because that sounds nowadays Karen is taken as
right
as the Karen.
Just as a friend, I had a situation where I needed to communicate with my daughter, and all I was gonna say was that she said what needed to be said for me to make that step to communicate with her, because sometimes you can be so hurt by what a child has done, you know, that you know, but then you have to break the curse of what a lot of times, especially males, disconnect of our fathers not being in the home. Right. So again, we go back to this thing of blended families. Right. Again, you're bringing somebody into your world and your kids' world, and then the thing may not have worked with you and the father. Right. You know what I'm saying? So now you're not looking for another father. Most women, you know, unless the dad's just like non-existent, okay, you know, he has a father, you know, but to have somebody like a bonus dad that will call him or something like that, okay.
Well, you know what? That brings up a good question. I don't know if you had one, but I hear. Oh, you say you do?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I hear that, and I completely understand it. Let's say on the left side of my brain, I understand it. You know, hey, you know, I'm not looking for a father for my children, this and the other. But on the same token, wouldn't you want a father-like person in your children's life? If you're going to be here with me, it's crazy for me to think with my right side of my brain. Let's just say that's the creativity side. But to say that I'm only looking for a partner for me, you don't have to really, because to me it sounds like you don't have to really worry about the children. Right. They're taken care of by somebody, but you're going to be in a household, if it gets that far, you still will be around that child probably more than their biological father. So what role do you play?
And if it is one of the things that I'm not worried and I'm keeping it separate, then you shouldn't live in the house. Right. We're just going to keep this outside of the house.
We'll keep those play dates at the hotel. Right.
Because my whole thing is, once again, taking it back to how I started when I said just simply being an adult. That I'm not asking for a dad. My children have their father. I'm not asking. No woman needs to, she doesn't have to do stepmommy. Right. None of that. But at the same time, if you are going to be in either of our lives, right, you need to be a whole grown person.
Exactly. Dealing with these children. Right. Like, and understand these children are young. So no matter what you say, because you're dealing with mom or dad, you're automatically to some degree in a authoritative point in their life. Even they need to be able to look up to you. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Exactly. Because even though, and here's my thing. Once again, the not knowing exactly what you're dealing with or what you're getting.
Why that works.
But but you know, the traumatized part of it. Sometimes a child has so much trauma they won't connect. And like you were saying, Dre, I'm glad you're talking with us this evening, because some people coming in the door, that's not my problem. Right. They won't take responsibility for that. They want to be, I'm here for you, but I don't have to deal with that. What do you mean you don't have to deal with that? How is the energy divided in the house?
Right. Because I think it kind of goes back to what Dre was just saying. If you're really there, and again, we're talking from the premise that people are really serious about being, because again, if you're playmates with, that's something completely different. Yeah. And as a grown person, you have those conversations, you know what your role is, and you stay in your lane. Right. But for those that are looking for something more serious or going into something and saying that they're serious, how do you make these comments if, like he just said, if you're really into this woman, then you're gonna go into those 3 areas that she needs of security. And you're doing all of that. There's no way, and I don't know too many women that their family is not a part of their security.
Thank you.
So how can you step to me as a woman and tell me as a man saying, hey, you know, whatever the situation is, hey, oh, I got you, boo. Hey, we're going to do this thing together. Hold on, your son calling? All right, call me back when he finished. What?
Right.
That doesn't even make sense.
But not just that. How can you stand? I'm sorry, hold on. Let me say this last part, Dre, and then you can step in. But how can you also sit back and actually watch your mate be stressed, trying to handle and deal with this by themselves? that's within it. Where's the support
right
for her or
but
him?
I got you, though.
You know what I mean? I got you though. Everything but that.
You need
though.
$10. I got you.
Right. Go ahead, though, Dre.
No, I was just gonna piggyback off what you said earlier about at the end of the day, it's about being an adult.
Right.
Right.
But you again, you establish what that looks like from the I think just honesty, man. Just that's huge. Just from day one, just tell me exactly
up front
where your expectations
right.
are. Yes.
Because I need to know.
Excuse me.
It's too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, hey, look, I like you. I really want to get to know you. But, no, I don't think that I'm not fit to step over in this arena right now. So it's
right.
Right. Exactly.
And that's that grown man ish
right
there.
And let a woman and let her and be grown enough as a man or the woman be like, you know what, I respect that.
Right.
And I can appreciate that and not be, oh, what you trying to say? You don't want to date. That's your choice that you had them children. Not everybody has to deal with that. And that's okay.
Right.
Because everybody has their own choice to make. And it's okay.
It truly is, because why are you trying to hold on to someone or attach to someone that's not willing to complete your circle?
Thank you. And then when they're cussing you out, beating on you, cheating on you, oh my God, I don't know where to stop line. Yes, you do. The man or the woman. Right. He told you from the beginning this is not what he wanted, but you pushed it.
Right.
Hoping something would change later on. Stop.
And then the worst part that come out of those type of situations, not only are they unhealthy, but pow, there go an accident, baby.
Right. Oh my God. Now you're tied to this person no matter what for the rest of that child's life. Well, really? I don't care what you say. Right.
You know, that's
God got me too, Todd.
Those kids are growing. So everything, this is the responsible part of it.
Right.
Everything that you do. Do you know that a child between the ages of, and this is statistically proven, a child between the ages of 1 to 3 their brain absorbs more.
Oh yes.
Than they ever will in their life.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
These babies that can play drums and play violins and
yes.
all that stuff.
Yes.
And so they see everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Oh, and you're right. In that time frame,
yes.
most parents don't even think their children are seeing anything.
That's what I said earlier when I said that the children already have a perception of you just by the energy that their parent carry when they come from being with you.
Mm-hmm.
That children have that very sharpened sixth sense, and they're connected to us. I don't care how old they get.
Right.
Young
as young as one.
Matter.
So all these people that's walking around saying, oh, you know what, I'm tipping around, I'm doing this. And then they're amazed when their children become teenagers. Dang, how do you have the same pattern I had when, 10, 15 years ago, you was a baby, you didn't know anything. But yes, I actually did. Just because I couldn't communicate it to you.
Nope, not even that I couldn't communicate. I knew you wouldn't listen.
Thank you. Right.
I know that my little 5-year-old, 6-year-old voice
did not matter.
Didn't matter. It wouldn't be heard. And because as adults, we look back on a lot of things that we probably could have helped our parents through, but we wouldn't say anything because we knew that our opinions didn't matter. And this goes back to people not respecting children. Right. I hate that. My children are so well open or able to express themselves just because I've always had open conversation with them.
Yeah, she has.
Like seriously, you can, when adults meet my children, I've literally had adults to pull me off to the side and say, like, your children are so expressive that it goes over my head. Right. Or it literally scares me. And I don't know what to do. Stuff like that. But that's because I built that part in them to be able to have that openness and expressiveness. And then you think I'm going to let someone else come in and now they have to hide from this person or they have to dumb themselves down. If you can't have an intellectual conversation with a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, then you have a lot of growing to do. Right. You don't need to be here anyway talking about being in the place of somebody's parent. How does that work?
Because these children, but those are the same adults that were children that had those situations happen to them. Right. You don't matter. You don't this, that, and the other. You are not this. You're not that. But then they hit 21. Oh, no, you're all of that. You done told me all this time I wasn't. Now I don't know how to talk to you. Now because most people are stunted at their age of trauma.
Yes.
Emotionally, they're stunted at their age of trauma. So if all of that was happening, they're going through trauma, let's just say between 5 and 15. Now when they meet your 5 to 15-year-old again, now I see competition.
Yes.
And then especially when you have a situation where parents,
true.
and especially when you're having situations where parents are loving on their children, have these types of relationships, they never got it. And that's a problem because now in their mind, they're starting to compare, oh, my mother never did this. My father didn't. So why do you spend too much time with your children? What do you mean I spend too much time with my children?
Oh, God. And I have had that happen to me.
Oh, yeah.
And after that, I have no more words. There's the door. Right. I am not going to be in competition with anyone with my children. Right. I had them. I groomed them. I invested in them. I put love into them. And now you're asking me, their source, their anchor, to abandon them emotionally, mentally, their growth.
Just because you're here.
Just because you're here.
No.
And for the people who have the balls to do it, I can't even say balls, the selfishness to do it.
Right.
I don't get it.
Right.
I really don't. For a woman, I've literally heard of situations of women, and I'm not just trying to make this a woman man thing, just from my experience that what I've heard or have seen, to actually put them out because here comes the boyfriend that doesn't want the kids. Like, really though?
That's real talk there. That's real talk.
But this is happening. And this is what it was a comment you made earlier. I was like, that's why I was kind of like,
Right.
Because I know I've seen this. As a matter of fact, I was one of them. Let me just go ahead and say it, because when my mother, one of her marriages, I wasn't even allowed at the wedding, and it was in my living room. Okay?
Right.
And when my mom, if I became too much of an issue, I had to go and live with my dad. Or with my grandmother.
Right.
Or whatever. I had somewhere to go. And even though she didn't voice it, how could I not feel it?
Right.
I'm not allowed at the wedding.
Right.
And then later on, as I got older, there was a comment made to me once that you're the reason why. And it wasn't just me, like, you all are the reason why. You know, the kids or whatever. Really though? This is what we're doing? Like, you know?
Right.
So, and then on top of this man didn't come in with loving arms, open arms, any of this. He didn't come in like, let me get to know you all.
Right.
He came in and went straight to the room. Hell, he didn't come out for the first 3 months. I mean, so how am I supposed to act or adjust to this energy in the house that I don't even know?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, yeah, and every time I see this person's face open the door, now I'm afraid because, you know, there's this whole new big brawny dude in the house that all he does is say,
Right.
He don't even speak words for real. Like, what am I supposed to do that?
Right.
But then the moment that I'm having a bad day and I don't feel like appeasing this, oh, now she has an attitude.
Right.
How about get to know your children? Ask them what they're feeling. Like, seriously, sit down and talk to them. They will tell you.
Oh, yes, they will. They will tell you that, because one thing about children, they have no filter.
Right.
If I'm just, oh, no, you're not fair. You're not fair. You know, Sarah, you better not be putting anything personal up there about me. Oh, okay, never mind. Hey, Sarah, that's my baby. That's one of them. But I can remember, everybody knows I don't have a problem with my business being out there, because you can't judge me from where I am. You can judge me how I'm moving today. That's my philosophy. So even when I got married, I remember, because it was so much strife and everything that was going on, I remember looking at them as like, oh, you guys are the reason why he's not happy. And I had to stop myself at one point now. And I remember going back to them. I don't know if Sarah remembers that. And I said, you know what? I have to apologize, because it was never your fault. It was it had nothing to do with you guys.
I feel that because that was really a growing moment. Yeah. We make mistakes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But to correct them, to stand and be accountable for them. That's, even if Sarah remembers it or not, even hearing that you acknowledge it can undo that.
Exactly.
Now it's giving and putting that value in there where whatever was taken out of, you know, or from, and depleted a little bit, you know. But yeah, so I thank you
so much for spending so much time with us,
Dre, because I know you're out there on that road and you have some really good insight.
Definitely, hopefully you don't mind us calling you back and tapping into your your wisdom, sir, because I'm loving this. I'm actually liking this and appreciate Sarah. Yeah. Oh, Sarah, just for my baby, I just have to read this. She said, yes, I do remember. And I actually felt bad realizing it could have been my fault because I know it wasn't as open. And it hadn't, again, when it comes to we learn and we grow. I appreciate that, baby. But that's to me, it's out of that thing. And I tell people now, I definitely did not respect the two girls because we didn't ask their opinion. Neither did we ask his son. His son found out that we were married. He went to Virginia to go pick him up. On his way back to the house, oh yeah, by the way, I'm married again. Really? And as I thought about that after it happened, I said that was so disrespectful. Telling me that. Because that bothered me. At least my girls knew it was about to happen. It happened really fast anyway. But they were there at the, the little ceremony that we had. But his son knew nothing. Wow. And mind you, these were teenagers at the time. Right. So that's already a hard part. And then this is something else that we'll have to touch on maybe at another time, because I can feel my husband perspective in the guilt. He never admitted, but I can see the guilt in the way he moves sometimes, because it can almost be, I'm doing this yet because I was his third wife. I'm doing this yet for somebody else's child and mine is not here. That's something else that people, again, being grown folks, don't talk about. Right. How do you feel about that? Being able to be a part of someone else's children's life on a daily basis, but you never got that opportunity with yours. How guilty do you feel? So when you go get your biological, your blood, and bring them in the midst, do you overcompensate? Because sometimes that can bring in strife. Like, it can. You'll hear like you're doing too much, and the first thing that person hears is, "What do you mean I'm doing too much?" Yeah, I hadn't been around this person, so I get to overindulge. Yeah. But you got other children that had nothing to do with it watching, and they're trying to figure out, why don't they do me like, that person does the other child. Yeah. And so it's all of these things that we don't think about as we're talking about trying to blend families.
And I would say, instead of overcompensating when the children do come around, how about get those children on a regular? Or making sure that they are a big part of every family function. Exactly. Even sometimes throughout the week. Here's my thing. Is like families that are blending the children outside of the home typically only get every weekend or every other weekend. Okay, so as the biological parent of that child, sometimes pick them up after school throughout the week. We are not limited to this weekend situation, because you, being the parent not around, you still need to know, what are their grades like. You being not there so often also affect what their grades are like. Yes, it does. So if they can see, hey, today I'm catching the bus home to my mom's house, or I'm catching the bus to my dad's after school, and the school is aware of it and everything, that they don't have to feel so distant, and then the other children don't have to feel like now we have to move to the back end, or we're in competition the whole weekend. Exactly. And now everybody's emotions are so heightened because, hey, it's a tug of war the whole weekend. Exactly. Pace yourself, balance your time. There's a lot of laughter in that. Please, you can learn so much in the midst of a laugh. Right. You can receive so much in the midst of even when you're trying to correct. I've had, I had to learn this, especially my oldest daughter. Oh, she would pout. Oh, I got in trouble again. And I remember one day I said, I'm going to just try something. I think I got on her real good that day too. She was laying on the couch pouting. I went over and just jumped on and started tickling. Oh, Mom, get off me, blah, blah, blah. And after we finished, it was like, okay, I'm cool. Because sometimes kids feel like just because they've gotten in trouble, it is a sentence unto life. You're going to follow me around. But it's like, and then I noticed, my ex used to try to do that. He'll, get on. And as he started to try to grow, he'll also try to play with him. And kids, it's about the laughter. It's like, that's how some people learn other people through sex. They learn people through laughter and being connected to the things that they like together. You know what I'm saying? So, and they can better see your intentions. Yes. Instead of just feeling like you're being just a complete jerk.
Exactly. And so when it's time to correct, they're more prone to listen. Because I know there's more. That person got two sides like my mom did. Right.
Instead of just taking every opportunity to discipline only. Right. Exactly. Make sure the laughter is that balance. Make sure the reinforcement is positive. Right. Make sure that you come behind what your consequence is, and in some kind of way show how it could have been an alternative to that, or a positive, way that it could have been handled.
Right.
I feel like communication in that way, when you're the step parent coming in, like, hey, you did this, and here's going to be your punishment or your consequence. But how could you have done that better?
Exactly. Communication.
That's not just a parent's duty. Once again, we're all adults. Exactly. And if you don't train children to think for themselves in critical thinking moments, and you're just disciplining them, then think about the trauma that creates. Everything that they reach to do is going to somehow either send them back to that moment or make them think everything is wrong. I can't do anything right. And then you wonder why they walk around with this frustration and just explode.
Right.
You cannot just, I don't care if you're your children, stepchildren, do not always just focus on the negative.
Right. And it just
excuse me.
I sure hate that word stepchildren. Because that's half of nothing in my household. And I think with my children, I think also trying to help blend, and it's just to each his own, because everybody creates their own dynamic for their family. But for me part of accepting is understanding that even though it's not blood, doesn't mean that you can't accept it fully and wholly.
Right.
So I was like, come on. And I know with my oldest girls, when we got married, you guys come up with your own definition. What would you like to call him? Because it definitely won't be his first name. I'm a Southern girl.
Right.
I'm trying to get out of
it. Their first name, that's no.
And it doesn't look good if you walk in there and tell me, hey, Mr. Such and Such, yeah, that's my step. Mister. It's a pedophile, no.
Right.
But I let them come up with their own name. Until the day he died. That's still, even though we were not married at that time, they still called him Pop. Yep, she put up Pops.
Pop.
And so even when we talk about him now, it's still, remember when Pop said such and such?
And that's a different, that also, it shows their bond.
Exactly.
That is that, hey, you're available to me.
Right.
I'm not standoffish. And I was just saying step parent.
Right, now I got what you're saying. Yeah.
But I don't do the step thing either. I mean, heck, I barely do like the God thing with us.
I know, right? I know. I'll have to explain it. I know people be like, what do you mean? Especially when I call like my real family or somebody I hadn't talked to. What do you mean? Sarah didn't have but one daughter. What are you talking? I said, no, y'all know T.
2.
Right.
It was 2.
And she would tell y'all too, every time it was a holiday.
Right.
I'm about to start your other name. Yashi, I got to get that. I'm big sister, so I get some pass. Don't y'all try it.
Right.
But it's. I told her I pulled out a picture, and we're still talking about blended families because all this stuff here. But the picture I pulled out, it was an Easter Sunday. Oh, you couldn't have been no more than maybe about 6.
I don't even think I was that old.
I want to say 4. Like 3 or 4. Okay.
I was 4. There was Easter Sunday, my little 4-line Easter speech.
Right. And mom had her on her knee. Not me or my brother were not in the picture.
Nope.
And just that you could not tell that was not her child.
Right.
But even with that, that's a point I'll touch on and try to end on if we're going to try to keep this in a reasonable time frame. But even when you're talking about blended families, it's not just the two, the adults in a relationship, but how do you get the children to blend? Because one thing sis blessed me with, and I think after she told me, I said, I never even thought about it, but it's a testament to how my mother was. She said, neither you nor my brother, Dion, big shout out, his big head supposed to be on there too.
What's up, bro?
Right. But she said, neither one of you guys ever made me feel like I was not an actual sister.
Right.
She said, because again, that competition is very easy for kids, especially another child coming in. Oh, you going to take over my mom? She said, y'all never did that. If mom needed to go somewhere, but hey, no.
Right. I was at the house with them. Right. And they never, it was always sisters here.
Right.
When I would leave things at the house, it was respected, wasn't trying to damage it out of spite. And, a lot of that happens just with blending families.
Right. Exactly.
But it was none of that. It was just like, hey, sisters home.
And when she said it, it dawned on me because I guess, again, how great of a mom she was in that respect, it never even dawned on me to be jealous.
Right.
And I think in my mind, I was like, I got a little sister, so I'm playing in the hair. And, that was sis, right. So when mom went out and bought dresses for me and her, I'm like, yeah.
But look at the key word you just said. Mom didn't have the jealous energy.
Exactly.
So if you have that other adult in the house that is exhibiting that jealous energy, but then they'll try to blame it on the child.
Right.
Oh, your child is this, your child is that. But what are you giving off?
Exactly.
That's what I always go to.
And it makes
my whole thing is always self-check, self-reflection, you know what I mean? Because you can't, you saying as you approach a child and your energy is just, you're saying you didn't come with any kind of aggression.
Right.
You didn't come with any type of, any hidden agenda. Because once again, children pick up on things more than you think they do. And as an adult, it's like that cynicism when it comes to children. You know, I can make you do this. I can tell you this and that, and I don't have to respect you. Well, if they were raised in a household of respect before you came around, trust and believe, you're not just going to be able to just come in and put your foot down on top of their heads and they're just like, they're going to stay down there. No, they're going to push back. They're human. They're whole people.
Somebody accidentally told them that they had a voice. And trust me, they will use it. They will use it.
But like accidentally on purpose.
Exactly.
like for real.
Exactly.
With respect, you know. But yeah, so I hope everybody liked the discussion. Anything else?
No, I'm reading with my baby. She was named after my mom. Okay, she said more stories on grandma. I absolutely will. I will. We'll do that later because Simone always asking me for stories too.
Yeah.
But hopefully everyone enjoyed themselves. Again, talking about dating with children and trying to blend a family together. If nothing else, hopefully you guys took away just be an adult. Be grown enough to know what it is first that you want. Second, be able to speak upon those things that you want. Third, try to build it. And if it does not work for you, be grown enough to say, you know what, this is just not for me. And you know what, I'm going to love you from afar.
Ashe, ashe.
Yes, ma'am.
Until next time.
Bye.
Peace.
Oh, I'm sorry. Peace, not bye. Peace.